Okay. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Media Musings. Currently, it looks like we've got Mama Atheist, Critical Cripple. I think I saw Mega Nuts.
Mega Nuts.
Yeah, Mega Nuts, Godless Scummer in the chat, and also hello to any who are lurking and or maybe watching in the future.
Oh, Santy's there as well. Hi, Santy.
Ah, nice. And of course, I very much appreciate the applause. Just feed my ego. So today, hold on, I'm going. I was a little behind schedule, so I haven't gotten the topic banner quite ready yet. So, usually on Media Musings, we do, there's kind of a balance between talking about big subjects, that just kind of overarch, across all media, and then narrowing down and talking about a specific piece. Last couple of weeks, we talked about specific pieces, the Big Lebowski and O Brother Art Thou by the Coen brothers. This week, we're doing something. We're gonna do another big topic, but this is a little bit of something new because we're talking about a form of media in and of as a whole. So rather than talking about like the concept of canon overall media or the concept of things that are problematic overall media, we're going with a kind of middle ground, and we're talking about what I feel is a form of media that other people might not think of as a medium in and of itself. We are talking about tabletop role-playing games. And yes, I am pleased.
As you should be.
Yeah. And we will be joined by Mama Atheist in a couple minutes. But so first I'll go ahead and ask my co-host. Do you think tabletop RPGs are actually a form of media or not?
Yeah, in the same way that all RPGs are in a way. Yeah. I mean, especially if you're working through campaigns that other people have written, because then you're consuming other people's ideas, and they're always based somewhat in reality. So So you're taking on that media aspect. Plus, I mean, the rules of the game itself implies a media trope itself, doesn't it? So
yeah.
Unless, of course, you define your own rules for tabletop gaming, which I've done in the past.
The thing is, like, everybody's got their own house rules that they use. Even talking about something as ubiquitous as Dungeons and Dragons, everybody has their own house rules for that. Like, for instance, critical fails aren't a thing by Raw at least in 5th edition.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, everybody just ignores that because it's more fun that way.
Yeah, now I've got an audio problem again.
Oh, I can still hear you.
Yeah, that's okay. It was just a problem with voice meter that I've sorted. I can hear you now.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
You still hear me?
But I feel that tabletop role-playing games are somewhat unique in this aspect because as I've titled this this particular episode, the authorless medium, because in a way they are, even if you look at like the campaign as, your specific piece, each campaign, it's essentially, authorless.
Yeah.
Kind of in the way that film was kind of seen as authorless before the, auteur theory of film criticism became popular, where they chose, the director as, the authorial voice of the piece. Except, here, so you've got like whoever writes the like, say you're working with a pre-written module, like, Curse of Strahd, or
yes,
you've got the writer of the module, but then you've got the storyteller / dungeon master / game master, depending on what system you use, who decides, okay, who then goes in and monkeys with it however or not they want to, whether it's because they're fitting it into a larger campaign, or they just don't want to deal with some aspects of the pre-written module, or they think they can improve it in some way. But even then, you've got, under that, you've got the players who will react however they react. And usually, there's the meme of the players never do what the DM expects them to.
Yeah.
And like, even below that, whether or not the players and their characters succeed is all up to a roll of the dice.
Yeah. And So you've got an element of direction within a tabletop or any role-playing game for that matter, but you've also got direct interaction straight off. So it's rather than being like somebody reading a newspaper or listening to the news, it's more like a discussion panel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, like a free-form discussion panel where the entire audience is allowed to have input.
Yeah, well, the audience is usually pretty small too, so...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I think the largest number of people I've ever had playing a tabletop game was about 10, so...
Yeah.
But what do you count tabletop in this situation? I mean, in a sense, if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons with a full set of miniatures and a proper map for controlling it, you're almost tabletop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it pretty much is all the RPG elements plus tabletopping. But you also have tabletopping, they made a computer game of it with mechs and stuff.
Yeah, you're talking Warhammer, the
Warhammer mechs. But
it's like if you take this up as a hobby, you will never have money. Kind of games.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like I think Warhammer's the most famous one, and then Star Wars, there's a Star Wars one.
Yeah, the new Star Wars one is quite interesting. So.
Yeah. Though
and they do get expensive, yes, but I mean, so does D&D with miniatures. So
yeah. And all the various kinds of dice. You can never have enough dice.
Oh no, you never have enough dice.
It's like I do all of my D&D and stuff over like Discord and Roll20 because of just having a bunch of friends in different time zones. and even though I don't use physical dice, I still can't have enough dice.
Yeah.
But back on trying to get back on track from that. So unless you're talking about the specific like RPG, like the army, where you get the miniatures and you build your army. I don't really see that as the same like medium form as something like Dungeons and Dragons or any of the White Wolf games, because it's more of like it's like Risk, or it's like chess, kind of. It's strategy.
A lot of people who play war game strategies and tabletops, and they're a strategy game, but there's still a lot of role playing involved in it. They still have to figure it out. There's still dice rolling. There's still you have to have a valid reason for doing what you're doing, and it has to be within the rules. So, I mean, in that sense, is it? Yes, it's not what we're used to doing with that, but is it all that different if you're role playing the commander of a tank squadron and some things in your? Is that really that much different to what we do when we play tabletop? I mean, it's very different to when you're playing D&D as a tabletop.
Yeah.
But is it that much different to a lot of the other tabletops like Warhammer and that, which, you really can't argue that they're not tabletop gaming.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, they're very much close. Like, they're very much close cousins, because D&D actually came out of the wargaming, historical wargaming hobby.
Yes.
So I have a theory. I mean, not really a theory, but like in terms of tabletop games and stuff like that, because calling it authorless, yes, in a way, but also it's almost like not only is everybody involved in author, but because of the dice rolling stuff, statistics is kind of an author. I want to say fate, but fate isn't a thing.
Yeah.
What the roll of the dice, the statistics of it is.
RNGesus.
It has such a feeling about it, because you're relying on something like math to move the game forward. It isn't just making the decisions. You have to go through that. So that's my theory, I guess.
Yeah.
But so we're gonna kind of circle a bit to
Sorry.
Well, no, because like the whole thing with it being essentially authorless, because literally every playthrough, like you could have the same DM run the same module 10 times. It'll never end up the same.
Yeah, it's like cards. There's 52 decks in a card, or cards in a deck. No matter how many ways you shuffle it, the amount of the statistics of you getting the same cards in a row, all 52, is less than the amount of stars in the sky. It's so incredible. So it's always going to be different.
Well, and the thing is, the players / audience have just as much of a say, if not even more so, than the DM is to what actually happens.
Yeah. Like you said, the DM, it never goes the way the DM wants it to go.
The DM's worst nightmare is fucking players.
The four words that essentially rule tabletops are, what do you do?
Yeah.
But that brings me to the point that Wizards of the Coast has recently done, which I kind of half applaud them for, but because so for those who don't know, Wizards of the Coast, who make Dungeons and Dragons, are essentially making moves to try and fix the latent racist tropes in Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, it's a good statement to make, but I kind of see it as largely ineffective.
Okay.
Because yes, it's good that, certain racist tropes, like, for instance, races being no longer inherently evil is a good thing. It like having it having like an official sanction is a good thing. But because like every person who runs a game runs it their own way. Like, even if they're running a pre-written module, they will play NPCs their own way. They will, tweak with encounters their own way. And, even what encounters you get could just be, decided on the roll of the dice. Like, it's like, yes, it's a good thing that you're having this like official announcement. You're like, okay, we're, things are no longer, and it does fit with like the design philosophy of, 5th edition, where it's your game. But, a DM's going to run his game, his or a DM is going to run their game how they run their game. If that makes sense.
So they would be able to impose their own ideals on each race or species as well. So it really wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it is, in a way, an overstep? Like, there's sometimes in media, and I'm talking about all media, especially like movies and TV, where in an attempt to divert from racist tropes, they go over to the other side and it becomes a different kind of trope. Like, there's you have the wise African American that knows everything and stuff like that has become a trope since they tried to turn it over, and it seems to pop up a lot. Do you feel like that's something that occurs?
No, it's from what I've read of their announcement, and I looked at like the actual like tweet by tweet list by Jeremy Crawford. It seems to me what they're saying is we're going to change how races get like races aren't going to get set ability score increases anymore, which is kind of weird because it seems to me that races in D&D are more like other species. Yeah. Than, what we would call a race. It's more what Darwin would call a race than what we would call a race.
Yeah, so in the history of this game, people mostly call them species, not necessarily races, right? That's what when you think of races, you just think of humans and that kind of race, but in D&D, it's completely different.
Yeah. In fact, I'd probably liken it more to like how, like, if I were to find a real life example of how D&D might have, how a D&D like setting might have been, I would go way back to the Pleistocene, where we had Homo sapiens, we had Homo neanderthalensis, we had, Homo floresiensis all running around at the same time, all these different species of, hominid.
And hobbits.
Well, yeah, Homo floresiensis is the hobbits, or as D&D calls them, the halflings, because the Tolkien estate was really, really litigious. But the more important note is that they made an official statement that races are no longer inherently good or inherently evil.
Well, there is no really inherent good or inherent evil either.
Yeah. Well, my kind of philosophy when I'm, running a game or, writing fantasy, because, building a campaign is essentially somewhat writing, even if you're just pulling it out of your ass, on the spot.
Yeah.
And is I kind of go with the Jim Butcher, like, Dresden Files interpretation, where if you're a mortal, if you're a mortal being, your nature is essentially in flux. You're not good. You're not inherently good. You're not inherently evil. You're just mortal.
Mm-hmm.
But the more, supernatural things, like your angels, your demons, your Cthulhu's, they are not really part of this mortal realm. What we would call their alignment is set, because they are like concepts of ideas, or they are like primordial forces in the world. So they, like, you could say they're not good or evil, because good and evil is kind of like a human concept. They are, but what they are could be called good or evil,
Because it's fantasy, though. It's not real world so much. So I guess I understand that.
It's like, like, the more inherently supernatural you are, the more locked in you're. Is it a species or a kind? Well, you see, we have the elf kind and the dwarf kind. Now, elves only produce elves, and dwarves only produce dwarves.
Can you have a dwarf?
Only in Dark Sun, I think. I think that's the only setting with a hybrid between dwarves and elves, and they're literally called mules, and they just kind of suck, if I remember right. They're like a slave race, but Athos / Dark Sun is like super up. It's basically Mad Max in D&D, from what I understand.
It's more futuristic, and the different races are more or less all mutant versions of humans anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they have got a similar genetic background in Dark Sun. So.
Yeah. Races haven't been inherently good and evil in D&D 5e. You can build any character with any alignment for the most part. Yeah, that's the thing is, in 5th edition particularly, alignment is very much a vestigial mechanic. Like, there's only one like actual mechanical effect alignment has that I've seen, and that's like, if you're good, and it's a cleric spell called Spirit Guardians, where you like cast it, and a bunch of like spirits that look however you want them to, like, just kind of circle around you and fuck up whoever you gets near you if you want them to. Like, if you're good, they do, radiant damage. If you're evil, they do necrotic damage. That is the only mechanical effect I've seen for alignment in 5th edition.
Yeah, it's not needed. It wasn't needed back in the day either. This people are inherent. Even people in general are inherently good and evil is just ridiculous. Yeah. We all make value judgments on what to do all the time. It's not. Yeah. It's one thing or the other.
Or as Hissy put it, classical terms, Zeus's alignment is horny. But
the trope of good and evil is big in everything. I mean, if you're telling a story, you often want that, you need that good and evil trope to actually make the story work. I mean, I hate to go there, but Star Wars. You've got the light and dark side of the Force, and so you've got that constant battle between good and evil. So, I mean, Star Wars is a great example of it. And yet there's grey areas within Star Wars. I mean, Luke certainly bends the rules to some extent, especially in Jedi.
Not as much as can't remember his name now. In the prequels, the first one, he's Obi-Wan's master. The fuck is his name?
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yes, thank you. Not as much as he's the rule bender. The same goes not only for Star Wars, but like think of the Buffyverse. Even though Joss Whedon is an atheist himself, there he has the idea of the soul. So he has the vampires and the monsters and demons that have no souls, and then the good side that is humans pretty much. But he doesn't mean it in a way that they're actual souls. It has to do with what you do and putting into life. It's kind of a, So I get that. It does show up a lot in media, and I think that's why we think as a society that it is a thing, because we've seen it for so long. Even in books and stuff from hundreds of years ago. From thousands of years ago, we look at Odysseus, the same kind of idea. That there is a lighter side and a darker side. So
that's not necessarily because you could easily you could run a campaign without a specific good or evil. It's just you have because Skyrim got just as many votes as this topic did. We will be talking about that after Les Mis and Dresden. But like, for instance, in Skyrim, you've got the Imperial faction, and you've got the Stormcloaks, and they're both as terrible as each other, essentially. Like, the Imperials are a bunch of overly legalistic tyrants, and who will execute you for being in the wrong place at the wrong time just because you got swept up in a patrol, even though you're not actually a wanted criminal, referencing the opening. And the Stormcloaks are a bunch of racists who, oppress, the minorities that live among them and just hate elves on principle.
Oh, I thought you said paint elves. I was gonna, what?
Yeah, no, they paint, they leave elf graffiti all over their walls. It looks terribly tacky.
Well, at least when they first do it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I could go off on a tangent here about graffiti, but I don't want to fuck up the.
But though, even so, like, even yes, like, okay, the Nords have no excuse for cruelly subjugating the Argonians who live among them, but they do kind of have an excuse for their hatred of the elves, because like, the elves are trying to basically crush their religion. But we can get further into that when we actually talk Skyrim. But you can make a campaign where there is no real concrete good or evil.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, you could base your campaign off Game of Thrones, where it's like a bunch of court intrigue, and you're trying to decide how you want to manipulate the situation in, to accomplish the party's goals, whatever they may be.
Yeah, to your own advantage.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily inherently evil in and of itself. I mean, it can portray itself as such, but as a species, evolutionarily, we're all, taught to do for ourselves. We're all about saving ourselves and our offspring. So it's not an evil thing. That's just built into us.
Though, and here's another thing about, the whole there is no inherently evil race, getting its official, stamp of approval, is when there are races that are labeled as inherently evil, like for instance the goblins, the orcs, etc. And you have D&D parties tend to be a bunch of murder hobos. So if you look, if you have a block, if you have a block of sapient mortal beings that is blanket, okay, these are evil, these are inherently the enemy, you will have a party of genocidal maniacs.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna wait. Let's, and hopefully we're not gonna get cut off for me saying that.
If you're going to try and argue that games aren't a form of media, tabletop games and RPGs, you'd have to also argue that computer RPGs weren't a form of media, which they most definitely are. I mean, you've got the whole point of things like Skyrim and Diablo and everything like that is telling the big story. I mean, yes, you sit there and play it, but you play it as much for the story the first time anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, after you might skip the story because you already know it. You don't want to get to it over and over again.
Though I will say, who has ever actually finished the main story of Skyrim?
No.
No one finishes, no one goes through the main story of Skyrim. They just go off on a bunch of side quests.
Isn't that kind of the fun part of the game?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I have on other games though. I've definitely played through the entire story line. I still haven't got through the entire storyline on Borderlands 3.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem is that the two big examples of it are obvious racial stereotypes. It might just be that race wars are built in, but so is the real life racism. Yeah. But and the thing is, like, there is like a essentially a sort of challenge when, with exploring like the themes of a campaign or such, because it's like how, like for instance, when you're writing a novel or you're, writing a movie, how the themes are explored is more concrete. It's it's set there by the author, be it an actual author or a director. But when you're talking about something as freeform as a tabletop game, basically how a theme is explored is the DM presents the theme to the players, and then the players do with it what they will.
Yeah, I mean the tabletop and a lot of RPG games have been used as teaching tools as well. So you could have an unscrupulous DM who is trying to influence the way that the people who are playing are thinking about things by the way they design their game.
Yeah.
So you can definitely use Dungeons and Dragons as a form of manipulation. I don't know that it'd be the most successful sort you could use, but it could definitely be done.
Yeah. Or like for instance, so who here is familiar with the various World of Darkness games?
No.
Like Vampire the Masquerade,
I have not
Apocalypse.
Yeah. I haven't played it though.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring them up as a counterexample because while they aren't as nearly culturally ubiquitous as Dungeons and Dragons, they are somewhat big, and they do make it. It is a fairly good counterexample. Like there is kind of a trope in the role playing community that like White Wolf, like every group has the potential of having some kind of problem player. With a White Wolf game, it's turned up like way past 11 because while for instance, a game like D&D is kind of a happy middle between these are just like these are mechanics and these are suggested themes. In games like Vampire and Werewolf, the themes and the lore are very much baked into the mechanics, and it tends to and because it's a dark, gritty, terrible reality for the most part. Like there are a couple more lighthearted games, like Changeling and Mages kind of is like more it is how it is. When you're playing Vampire, you are a monster, whether or not you're actually trying to hang on to your last shreds of humanity or not. And those kind of themes can attract certain players.
So you feel like because there is a kind of inherent evil that way, that's how players will perceive it?
More like it's like the themes of the game are baked into like how you play the game. It's like like for instance, Vampire. You are a bunch of vampires. You need to feed on people. You need to feed on people. You need to keep the existence of vampires secret, etc. So you will get the person who becomes a serial killer.
Yeah.
It's like it's a darker world which encourages a darker, more confrontational style of play.
Well, you slip into that. You're able to slip into that role, as something that you can see as evil, and I get that.
Yeah. And hello, Hissy.
Hey, Ring. I thought I'd drop in and see how you're all doing. Because you seem to be talking some quite deep themes, and I probably have something worth saying.
Okay.
Catch up.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, I was just listening to you talking about how games with sort of baked in racial stereotypes attract a certain subset of player.
Yeah.
You've got a point. But that's where it becomes, I think, the job of the creators and of the other players to call that out.
Yeah.
And to other that. And that, I think, is where, for a long time, D&D has failed and is beginning to turn in the right direction.
Yeah.
Some of that comes with the quality of the DM.
Yeah, a lot of it's down to the DM, but like with my area is D&D 5e. That's the only sort of tabletop game I've played. So if I'm referencing that a lot, that's why.
Yeah.
I can only think of 2 races off the top of my head that have a baked-in alignment. Not even at races, just classes.
Yeah.
So a paladin's got to be good, and they will therefore go a certain way.
Yeah.
Whether they're neutral good or chaotic good, you can
Yeah.
play with that a little bit, but they've got to stay on that spectrum. And with race-wise, your orcs are generally more chaotic or evil. But even still, there's ways of playing it that can really mitigate that. And a lot, it's down to the DM, but a lot of it's down to the player as well and how you read the character you've created. If you want to set out and create a vicious, violent monster character, you can do that.
Yeah.
And you can use any race to do that. There are certain races that lend to it more than others.
And
but
heck, you can very much do that like with a paladin.
Yeah, you can. That's there. And I mean, just looking at things like Dragonborns, all these different colours, and different colours mean different things and have different backgrounds. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to play a completely evil, bad to the bone Dragonborn just because you picked the black colouring.
Yeah.
As an example, you could probably work around it.
And you can be a cleric who has healing spells and be an absolute prick.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I speak as having played with someone who played a kobold cleric who was a little bit of a
To be fair, I was a kobold death cleric.
I played a chaotic neutral.
So someone was you then, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You brought a corpse to the breakfast table. Don't at me.
Yeah, but that was because after I came back from the dead, I didn't really see the difference between how you would treat a dead person and how you would treat a living person.
He plays some really weird D&D characters. He's
We caught a goblin once and dragged it around as a pet.
A what?
Oh.
A pet.
No, I mean, what you said, you grabbed a what? I didn't hear what that was.
Goblin.
And
Okay, I thought you said a bravo. I was like,
what the goblin? We absolutely we genocided an entire group of goblins, apart from this one goblin.
Yeah.
that's like something my kid would do. Like just wipe out an entire race of something in a game for the fuck of it, you know?
Yeah, we
Not
had a
that he's evil. Okay, maybe he's a little evil. But
Well,
him.
well, that's also why, like they're like one of the most famous like moral conundrums that a DM will set out is the orc babies. You're like you have the party fight an incursion of X monstrous race. And then in one of the rooms or one of the tents or one of the, shelters, huts, etc., you have them find children. And then, of course, the party has this like, what do we do?
Please don't do that in secular D&D. 42nd will probably try and wear them.
Oh, actually, no. I did a variation of that in secular D&D.
And look what 42nd did.
He made it a friend until it backstabbed the party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what I did with the grung was essentially that problem.
Yeah, it's the problem of what do you do with prisoners of war?
Yeah.
And innocent victims. I don't know. There's a lot of issues around D&D.
Yeah.
And I will admit, the first bit of the stream before I hopped on, I've been sort of half listening because I've had other stuff on. But the problem is there's no easy fix for it when it's baked into the mechanics.
Yeah.
But I don't think that calls for an entire rewrite.
Yeah.
I think you could very easily fix it with a supplementary, something like UA, but a supplementary that says, okay, if you want to avoid these particular tropes, this is a way of doing it. These are suggestions on how to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely certain bringing in an entire new edition with totally new mechanics and backgrounds and origins and everything else is necessary at this point.
Yeah. Well, especially since the entire philosophy behind 5e, from what I can tell, is these are guidelines. It's your game.
I mean, I do have issues with the founders of D&D and some of their behaviour that I've seen. I'm not going to comment on because I don't know the full story, but I have issues with some of the things I've seen.
Yeah.
You know, treatment of sort of artists of colour and things like that. But as with anything, at some point you've got to separate the product from the producer.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sat here. You can guess I've been having that trouble recently.
Yeah.
You know, we all got to the point in life where we learned, oh, Disney was one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, are we still allowed to like Disney films? Yes, you are.
Yeah.
You know, Ford was one of them. Am I still allowed to drive a Mondeo? Yes. Please do. You know.
The biggest elephant is about, are we allowed to like something but dislike the creator?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Who we won't mention. She doesn't deserve it.
Or though, and of course, on the other end of the spectrum, you have a system like the Fate system, where it's like, here's a broad set of just like mechanics that you can use to make whatever setting you want. You can use the Fate system for anything.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to run and pick up my kid, but I'm glad that Hissy came in.
Yeah.
To be here. Hi, Hissy.
Okay.
So, but I do have something to chill, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
We did a stream yesterday with Dark Matter. It was unlisted, though, because we've been attacked by some trolls that keep getting our streams cut down. We did that last week and with Dark Matter, and it got cut down, even though it was put back up, but we didn't get to finish it. So we did it this week, except it was a TV time episode with Stranger Things, but then it devolved into, we talked about politics and LGBT issues.
Yeah.
So we're going to split it into two at, I think, 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do the TV time one. And then at my normal Living Critically time at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight, we're going to do the other talk. Really great. We opened up a lot, learned a lot about him. He's a great guy. So we're doing that today.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Have fun, you guys. See you later.
Take care, Amanda.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. I mean, there are other things to discuss other than D&D, and I do feel like you've kind of spent a lot of time on racing D&D.
Yeah.
So what other topics have you got to discuss on it?
Well, yeah. Well, my whole point is like trying to get like, well, so we've, okay, hold on. So we've got, yeah. So we've got, games where, certain themes to explore are very much baked into the mechanics of the game. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, these are the 10s. Like, for instance, the World of Darkness games and like Call of Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because, and actually, though I will not say this authoritatively because I haven't actually played Call of Cthulhu yet. From what I've seen of Call of Cthulhu, it seems like it's more the otherworldly terror from Lovecraft and less the super problematic stuff.
You would hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I haven't played it, so I wouldn't know. Do you mind?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it like most modules are set in 1920s America, so you will still get a bit of that. But like there are also modules that are set in the modern day. There are, I think, a few modules set in ancient Rome.
It's very heavily good versus evil.
Well, I don't know. From what I see, it's very heavily us versus the unthinkable horrors beyond.
I mean, a lot of fantasies like that, isn't it? It's us versus them. The problem is when people absorb this sense of us without looking critically at what being a part of that group means.
Yeah.
Yes. What's being represented by the them, because us and them is not the best mentality.
I mean, in D&D, if you're playing a lawful good paladin character, regardless of race, you are going to get to a point in the game where you know what your character is doing is wrong.
Yeah.
But they're going to do it because that's their alignment.
Yeah.
Or they're going to do it because that's the order they've been given.
Yeah.
Although, I've always... When I've been playing D&D, I've often let it go that a paladin can do something that's evil if it's for the greater good.
Yeah. Well, even that comes with its own philosophical debates and
Well, okay, so let's talk about alignment itself, and alignment is something very much specific to D&D. It's like what D&D brings to the RPG table.
Yeah.
I'm my brain.
Brains.
Yeah. Oh, about brains. Like the one race that I could see, the one mortal race that I could see as as inherently evil, or rather inherently antagonistic, would be the Illithids, the Mind Flayers, because even then it's less of they are evil, more they are it's more like the wasp is evil to the caterpillar.
Yes. It's nature over direct decision in that case. I mean, their culture
is very nature. It's
they subsist on mortal brains.
Yeah, so they don't really have a lot of choice in what they do.
Yeah. Or how Morticia Adam, or to paraphrase Morticia Adams, what is good to the spider is evil to the fly.
Yeah, very much. And they are lawful evil characters in that sense. They really are. Because they are very much takes what it wants but has its own code of conduct within that.
Yeah.
And a lot of villains end up being played that way. Now, for me, I don't know. Of all the alignments, I've always found that the lawful good character, I've always found them to be the most villainous. Maybe that's just my personal biases coming in. But any character that just obeys and it's the stunt character number 17 is like
well, I don't know. I think that that's more a case of lawful neutral rather.
No, I don't know about
that. So the way
lawful neutral though allows for conscience, whereas lawful good kind of doesn't. It's
I don't know. It seems to me, and of course, so you know what? I odds are I may not actually make this video because of just how my schedule is, or if I do, it'll be weeks down the line, and people will probably forget about this. So, so this this is an example of why, morality isn't absolutely ingrained into humanity right here.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, okay, Hissy, you've seen various adaptations of Les Mis.
Mm-hmm.
What would you peg Inspector Javert as?
I mean, for me, Inspector Javert is lawful good. He's that obedient to a fault. In my defense, I haven't finished reading the book yet. I am reading it. I'm reading the book. This is based on film and stage adaptations. He's lawful good. He's that, I was only following orders. He's that bloke. But when he knows he's gone too far, that's when he says enough's enough and he takes a swan dive. That, to me, is the lawful good character who's learned where the line is.
Now, for me, in my opinion, and I'm coming very much from the same level of having, like, I'm not quite done with the book. I'm a couple hundred pages from the end. But, I've seen the BBC adaptation. I've seen the stage play. I've seen the movie version. I see Javert as very much lawful neutral. Because he doesn't really care that much about, good or evil, like whether or not he's harming anyone. He just cares about the law.
See, that to me is a characteristic of a lawful good character.
Now, who I'd see as a good, like a couple characters I see as a good example of what would be lawful good is Captain America and Superman.
See, but I would put Javert in with them.
I wouldn't see Captain America as lawful good.
Really?
Superman, because he's too goody two shoes. But Captain America, I mean, maybe from the Marvel movies, but not from the comic books.
Yeah, I mean, from the movies, I'd put Captain America in as a chaotic good.
Yeah, I'd probably go closer to that, and same for the comic books. I mean,
he will do the right thing, but he does prioritize his own conscience.
I mean, even in the comic books, he follows his own conscience. Comic books, and even in the movies, he follows his own conscience and ends up a thing from the law. He ends up, they're trying to put him in the prison, aren't they? So
well, see, and so it seems like we're going off a somewhat different interpretation of lawful versus chaotic. See,
for me, chaotic relies on their conscience and their own personal code.
Yeah.
A lawful good is that character who relies on an external source of their morality. So will rely on something like a religion or a constitution or the orders of a superior officer, whatever that may be.
Now,
that's the difference to me.
Now, for like, okay, so the way, and Scummer has weighed in.
Yeah,
so,
right, Jeff.
You're right.
So the way I personally interpret, the alignment chart is lawful is you have a code that you will not break, whether it be external or personal. Chaotic is you're more fluid about it. You go where the wind goes. And then good versus evil is like whether you work to benefit others or whether you work to, just benefit yourself.
I think it's a bit deeper than that with the difference with the good and evil axis, because I think good characters tend to protect innocence and innocent life, whereas evil characters will act without regard for or actively to destroy innocent life for their own, either just because they enjoy it or for profit.
Or like, for instance, Dolores Umbridge, lawful evil.
Oh, yeah, but you can say that but only if you can clearly define that there is a very fine line between lawful good and lawful evil. And that is the only difference between lawful good and lawful evil is who the character looks to for their morality.
Exactly.
Okay, hold on.
So in that case, I don't know. Yeah.
Which means it's not an inherent thing in the character. It's something that.
It's how you be able to say of Umbridge.
I mean, she's very.
Is she actually evil though? She does evil type things, but that's because she has a sadistic nature. But does a sadistic nature necessarily define you as being evil?
I don't think she had a sadistic nature. I think she had a vengeful nature, and there is a difference.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. Actually. Well, certainly what she does to Harry is vengeful, not and sadistic. It's his strong point of venge. But you don't necessarily have to be evil to be vengeful either.
I mean, I would say if we're talking about someone who works within the rules and within the limits of a code of conduct, regardless of what that is, I can't put her as lawful evil just because she does break the rules when it suits her. She imposes the rules on everyone else, but she does break the rules when it suits her, and she's not afraid to do that. We see her do a lot of things that are really evil.
Yeah, I don't know that she's particularly evil. More chaotic, neutral. She's very chaotic.
I mean, if someone tried to torture me, feed me a truth potion, and take me prisoner with no rights, I think I'd call them evil.
Yeah,
just hold on. I'm just randomizing something real quick.
What are you randomizing?
And up the font size. Okay, because we might as well do this live on stream since we are talking alignment.
Cool.
We're gonna do a little experiment, and so major asterisk right here. This is a ridiculously small sample size.
Oh, 2.
Yeah.
Get in here. We need more sample size.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Cool.
Okay. So I randomized it a bit. So, alignment. Jeffrey the Dude Lebowski.
I think he's just a nihilist. I wouldn't even give him an alignment. He just.
He's definitely probably closest to true neutral.
Yeah, I have him pegged as true neutral.
He just kind of goes wherever the wind blows and does what he pleases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put my earplug out.
Right. Yeah. So, Mr. Spock.
He's definitely on the good side, isn't he? He's. I feel like he's probably lawful neutral.
Okay. What do you say, Jen?
Well, yeah, because the Vulcans are all about their rules, but they're not necessarily good or evil. They're balancing that out from logic. So yeah, lawful neutral is probably the best.
I do say with the caveat that quite obviously the reason he's lawful neutral is because his loyalty is to Jim.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now, I actually had Spock pegged as neutral good.
I just want to go off on a side track. Given the way that Vulcans behave and their indoctrination into the way they have to be with their emotions and everything, is being a Vulcan a cult?
Hmm.
Now, there's a topic to cover on Media Musings. Is being a Vulcan a cult?
I would
you know
say
what?
yes. Yes, I would say yes.
You know what? Let's see if we can get the resident community cult expert. Let's see if I can, let's see if one of us can get a hold of Telltale for that.
Is
Reddit's
volcanism?
cult baby for that as well.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can get. Yeah, and he's a bit of a Star Wars.
Or yeah. So, but I actually had him pegged as neutral good.
Yeah. Lawful good. No, not lawful good. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a Spock pegged as neutral good.
But Dave, I know he bends the rules occasionally, but the Vulcans are so good. Their own laws, not human laws, but the Vulcan laws they're so good at.
Yeah, he has his own code and he sticks to it.
He does. He's very lawful in that sense. So you might be able to put him on the good side, but yeah.
But okay, so
do you want to get demonetized?
So Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Dude's just like we're all biased on this one. I'm gonna say that as a disclaimer.
Yeah.
This character is I feel like this character is probably neutral evil.
Lawful evil. He's certainly about his own laws.
Yeah.
I put him at chaotic evil. Because
I wouldn't go that far. He's not entirely off his trolley.
Because while he is, about his own laws, he isn't bound by them. He imposes them otherwise, on other people, but ignores them at his whim.
That's true, which is chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's evil, though. That's the other debate. Would he be more chaotic neutral? Which it totally fits with his chaotic nature with everything.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, basically, chaotic neutral characters are self-centered and self-appeasing, so that kind of describes Yahweh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So either chaotic neutral or chaotic evil.
Yeah. So what about then? Before you move on?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we already did Inspector Javert.
Yeah. So should we do
Blues are definitely chaotic good.
Yeah. I put them as chaotic good.
They are. Someone asked me if you open a book about D&D to the page on chaotic good, it's just a picture of them. Like they will do what they think is right and screw the consequences.
Yeah. Okay. Now we move to Albus Dumbledore.
Dumbledore.
Okay.
I put him as chaotic neutral.
He's not erratic though. He has a dead set plan on exactly how he's going to do stuff, and he doesn't care for the rules, and he doesn't care who he hurts in the process.
See, for me, that makes him lawful evil. He cares about certain things, but not about others. He plays by the rules. There's no mercy or compassion there, though. Not really. Yeah. There's a veneer of it, but it's not true.
And he does follow rules because, like, when he does binding stuff and he makes promises to people, he does keep them. So he does follow his. Lawful evil could work if you take it from his perspective of what he sees as law.
Yeah.
Definitely evil, though. To use people the way he does is not the sign of a good character.
Yeah, and he's very zealous about what he believes and his outcomes as well, which again, it's that lawfulness coming through, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's very much... And he's very methodical, very... Everything's thought out. Everything seems to be thought out. And the character is just not a good character. And he's not chaotic. He's not, because he clearly knows what he's doing. And he's clearly not led by anything as, you know, I think that you get the impression of the character that he thinks he's above such sort of weak human ideals as compassion and decency. He espouses them, but he doesn't live up to them.
Yeah. He's very much the way I see him as, you know, chaotic neutral is he avoids any kind of, you know, code or law as he sees fit. You know, especially given how arbitrarily he's like, oh yeah, so the teachers tabulated these points, but you know what? Harry gets 1,000,000 points for Gryffindor.
Dumbledore's a tricky one because it depends whether you take the point of view of his own code of ethics or from everyone else's. If you take it from everyone else's, he's definitely chaotic.
Yeah.
If you take it from his own, though, he's definitely lawful because he does clearly have a code that he does stick to.
Yeah.
But his code is very convoluted.
Or to paraphrase Alfred Pennyworth from The Dark Knight, some wizards just want to watch the world burn.
Pretty much.
Well, he wants to see the Voldemort burn, and he doesn't care who he destroys in the process.
Yeah,
exactly, and it's that, isn't it? It's that not caring who he destroys in the process.
Yeah,
he has to destroy himself. He cares that little about himself as well,
and you can't really say that he cares about a. You know, it's not really evident if he cares about a greater good or not.
No, I think he worries about evil more than
his concern is that he's got this ideal of what the greater good is.
Yeah.
And
it might not necessarily be the greater good, but it's his greater good, and therefore it goes.
Yeah.
That's
the aspect of this in him in with his ability and in his history. He also went very close to being that evil wizard.
Yeah.
And he's got, whilst he might not have a big concept of the greater good, he does understand what the greater evil is. Well, and he has that evil within him. He's like, I don't want to.
Yeah, but the problem is, and this is something that gets conflated a lot with Dumbledore, but that's never stated outright. The problem with the greater good is that it's only the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, both of the most terrible dark wizards in history were a result of Albus Dumbledore.
Yes. And he was nearly the third of them in history himself. Because he has want of power.
Yeah.
He is power hungry.
And the thing is, in the books as well, he claims that he became a teacher because he wanted to avoid the power. Quite clearly, that's a real manipulation tactic, because if you want power, you control the children. That's how you get long-term power.
He put himself in the seat of power at Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Where he could indoctrinate a whole generation so that he would be there to take control of Harry when he came in. And
also, you know, he left Harry with the Dursleys to make him ripe for love bombing.
He is the supreme manipulator. He really is.
He's an asshole.
This is why I sort of put him through as lawful evil. He's that ultimate manipulator. You know,
How much do you? A side question: how much do you see of the author in Albus Dumbledore?
More than I think the author would be comfortable with.
I think we might have to be careful, seeing as how certain people feel about me talking about J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. If I was going to pick any character in the novel who exemplifies so much of her personality that you see when she covers topics, it's Albus Dumbledore.
which would actually kind of make sense because he's like if you don't look at his actions, if you just look at strictly how he's portrayed in the book, he's the paragon.
Yeah. I will say though, at the minute we can see, throughout the books she gives her voice to Dumbledore. At the minute, she is very much giving Mrs. Black's portrait a run for its money.
Yeah.
Oh yes, she is. I'll give you that.
Okay, so but let's move on because we've talked about JK in other streams.
And everybody knows our opinion on
Spider-Man, specifically Peter Parker.
Depends.
He's a good character, but he likes to have fun, doesn't he? I feel like he's somewhere between chaotic neutral and chaotic good.
I actually replaced him as what I had previously for the lawful good.
Yeah.
Because he is strictly, held to his own code of with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes, he has.
He will destroy his own life to try and live up to that code.
Yeah, but it's not a bad code to live up to.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is he cares more about helping others and more about this responsibility code than he cares for his own health and safety, which is why I put him at lawful good.
Yeah, but I think the line between chaotic and lawful is if he cared more about the code itself than helping others, and he doesn't. He's still driven by his conscience regardless of anything else.
Yeah.
He's not saying, he's not about to throw away all his morality and all of his own personal code because someone offered him a bit too much power. He's not about to do that. So I don't think he's a lawful character in that sense.
And actually, while I think if someone offered him more power, he'd turn it down because he's already, he already feels so weighed down by all the responsibility that his current power is given him.
But that's a chaotic trait.
He's already completely wrecking his own life just trying to live up to the responsibility his great power has already given him.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. He's following his own morality, his own code, but he's doing it in such a way that I feel like lawful good very much works within a broader scheme. You can be, a lawful good member of an incredibly problematic group.
Yeah.
Because that's the law you follow. And you mean well. Whereas chaotic good kind of leaves chaos in his wake, and he does that. He leaves chaos in his wake because he's a little bit unpredictable. He's that, the line from Pirates of the Caribbean? You can never predict what a good person's going to do. Yeah. That, to me, is Spider-Man. He can never quite predict. He's going to do something, but when he does it, he might just,
I could be talked into saying he's neutral good.
All right. Yeah, you've got to take Spider-Man depending on where you take him in his history. If you're talking about the young Peter Parker freshly getting his powers, trying to do the right in the world, he is definitely lawful good. He is all about the good. He comes across as chaotic. It's only because he's.
I will say right after getting his powers, he's chaotic. He's either chaotic good or chaotic neutral because he's all about getting himself money and fame. If we're talking post Uncle Ben's death, that's when he goes lawful.
That's only in the Sony movie.
No, in the comics, he was an asshole before Uncle Ben's death.
Depending on which version of the reboot of the comics it is into. Yes, I will agree that because it depends on how they do the meeting his Uncle Ben. So yes, he does go from being about himself, selfish with his powers, depending on the version of the origin story, to becoming wanting to be the best that he can possibly be, even if there's a bit of chaos in that because he's still learning about his powers. So closer to lawful good, but he goes back to being more chaotic neutral later. Not chaotic neutral. Being lawful neutral later on.
I think the problem is with Peter Parker, from what I know of the character, every time he catches a villain, he ties them up and hands them over to the police. There's there's that Javert, these characters with lawful alignment have an edge to them that Peter Parker just doesn't have. Like, he's not knocking villains around and really being nasty to them, which leads us on to the Punisher, but he's not doing that.
Yeah.
He's tying them up and handing them over to the authorities. And that's why I think he's more towards neutral than lawful, because he works within the bounds he's got when he's chasing villains, and that's lawful, but the way he behaves is very neutral, and he stays away from, laws and legal processes and things. He's not Daredevil. He's not a lawyer in his spare time.
He's a photographer.
The majority of Spidey's time, I didn't mean lawful good, I meant neutral good. He's neutral good. He moves between bending the rules, but he is ultimately a good character.
Yeah.
But when he first has that inspiration of with great power comes great responsibility, his first thing of that is to go really lawful, try to follow the law. But as the law kicks back, especially through J. Jonah Jameson, his attitude changes, and he realizes he can't just exist within that framework.
And actually, that's probably why he was used as the point. Well, one of the reasons, obviously, was because he is Marvel's most recognizable character. But another is why he was like the point of view character for the Civil War is he tries to do what, he tries to use his powers responsibly to do good. So, at first he thinks, signing up with the Registration Act is good. It will lead to good. So he unmasks himself and registers to, with Tony's side. But then he sees that Tony is up to some really shady shit, and he swaps to Captain America's side.
Yeah, in the comic books, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
this is what I mean by chaotic. Regardless of the law or the system he's in, it's his own conscience he follows.
Yeah.
It's not external. You know how I said the difference between lawful and chaotic is where the morality comes from?
Yeah.
Whether it's external or internal. His is internal and therefore chaotic, because anyone looking at him, you can't predict him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like most people, I think, are somewhere on the chaotic spectrum, because we will never be 100% in line with the laws of the land we are in.
Yeah.
Like to the letter, and with the spirit of and to the letter of. Because you can't be. It's impossible. If you were, you'd be living under some sort of totalitarian regime.
Yeah.
So it's like levels of that, isn't it?
And it's a very good thing that I'm not running like 3rd or 3.5 edition for you, because we, that edition was way more focused on alignment, and we have a very different interpretation of how alignment works.
Yeah.
But
the thing with Spider-Man is because he is so versatile in that, because he goes through so many growths in his identity, he despite having this superpower, he is probably one of the most relatable characters for people.
Yeah.
because he's not just this. He's got this superpower, but it doesn't matter. He's still vulnerable. He's still a human. He's still very much an ordinary, everyday person. He's just got this thing that happened to him, and he's trying to make the best of it and be the best person he can with it. And I think that's what makes Spider-Man such a successful character for Marvel, in that he's so relatable.
And so now we move to another Marvel character, and Scummer's saying somewhere on the evil scale.
See, I don't know.
I feel like he's See, the thing is, Punisher does care about life, just not the life of his enemies.
Yeah.
I put him as more lawful neutral.
I would say he's an extreme lawful good character. He's what happens when lawful good goes way too far.
Now, I'd say he's lawful evil.
We all think he's lawful, though.
Yeah.
He's evil. I really don't. I think he's more neutral. He certainly does some things that you could definitely consider being evil. He does some things that are definitely good. So I don't know if you could ultimately pigeonhole him in good or evil. I think he puts the law above concepts of good and evil. His law, anyway.
I think the problem is with that, and it is this thing of, isn't it, whether you value the law or it's whether you value the means or the end.
Yeah.
Do the means always justify the end?
Yeah.
Because if they do,
about the end,
your character is ultimately good. However, if there are lines you won't cross and your character crosses them, that makes them evil.
And this
is the thing where alignment tries to be really objective and you just can't be. And we're even seeing that now, that we all interpret alignment totally differently.
Yeah.
And this is the difference between a character like the Punisher and Batman.
Yeah.
Because Batman has his lines. He won't cross them. He has his set.
He won't use guns, and he usually won't kill.
Yeah.
Depending on how far back you go, because Golden Age Batman straight up murdered people.
With a gun.
Yeah. But that's a good point Jeff's just made.
Yeah.
Punisher enjoys the killing.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. Yes, he may not have started out that way, but he becomes a bit psychotic in the end, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
we certainly him towards being.
So Punisher is a bit problematic in his own way, in the fact that he, canonically he served in Vietnam.
Yeah, it's the vetsploitation trope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
PTSD-ridden vet with too much violence. He's
the Marine who got out of the war, but the war didn't get out of the Marine.
How did I know he was going to be a Marine?
Yeah, he's canonically a Marine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that stereotype, isn't it? The Vietnam veteran Marine.
Yeah.
All mouth, all fists, no filter.
Yeah.
Just punches first, ask questions later. Trauma-ridden, probably drinks way too much, smokes way too much, swears too much, probably sleeps around way too much as well on his downtime. He's just a mess.
Well, yeah. So
that's
the
real horrible trope, and it's
he is a Marine. When he got back from Viet, he had a family, a wife and kids that he adored, and they got murdered in front of him by mafia. So he declared war on crime, a one-man war on crime that he is fighting, essentially.
Yeah. And vetsploitation is a thing, and it's this whole thing about, if you Google the word vetsploitation, the first image result is of the Punisher.
Yeah.
And I think that just tells you everything, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There is a difference between war films and vetsploitation films as well.
Definitely.
And it's, I don't know, I always get skeeved out by any films that exploit a particular demographic or any character that's a walking sort of stereotype of a particular demographic.
So I will say And hopefully when TV, when I get back onto TV time and we make our way to The Punisher, the Punisher Netflix series does a really good job of that by making it about veterans issues.
Yeah.
Like it's essentially what it did with Luke Cage, and is it takes the exploitation genre and uses it as a platform to talk about actual issues.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The Punisher is without doubt a symptom of Vietnam syndrome in America.
Yeah.
He really is. And this is it's a problem.
Yeah.
But for his alignment, it's kind of difficult to separate the character from his context, both in text and extra-textually, because you can't have one without the other.
Fun fact, the Punisher's first appearance was as a Spider-Man antagonist, because basically the first, the plot of his first appearance is someone, one of the, I think it was the Kingpin or someone, some, villain with a veneer of, respectability, convinced the Punisher that Spider-Man was a criminal, and then, and
let him loose.
Yeah, and let him loose, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, we can. I think there's a lot to be said for the trope of the, shall we say, less than intelligent, violent brute of a veteran character.
Yeah.
Which really doesn't stand up to scrutiny at all.
Yeah.
Especially when it's an overgeneralization like that. There's major problems in media with that. The problem is a lot of people who interact with those kind of characters have a very set idea of what those characters represent. Yeah. And even if they don't understand the context the characters are coming from, they will receive that uncritically. And the problem with it is that when it's not received critically, people begin to believe these stereotypes are true. And that has real world consequences.
Which is kind of part of the whole point, or the philosophy, or at least one of the starting philosophies behind Media Musings, is we take these different pieces of media and we look at them critically.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what the hope is.
Yeah. Because, I mean, are there probably veterans of wars who were neck deep in drink and drugs and violence and really, really need therapy, but won't get it because they think they're too manly for that, so they just got to throw punches? Probably. Is it something to wash every veteran with the same brush, regardless of the war they were in, their age, their other context? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And the problem with the Punisher is he is a physical representation of that backlash. The first time America really lost, quite badly lost, a military operation.
Yeah.
And there was that backlash against it, and it's that defensiveness and that aggression and that loss, and that it's almost a loss of innocence taken to real extremes.
Yeah.
And with America being such a young country, you see that in a lot of vetsploitation films.
Yeah.
Where this character becomes the embodiment of the worst bits of the dark psyche that war left behind in American culture.
Cough, Rambo, cough.
Yeah. It's Rambo, it's Green Berets, it's, and America has slowly moved from that, but Hollywood is always behind.
Yeah.
Comic books even more so, especially when Hollywood is bringing out comic books. It's not an accident that comic book movies and movies about vigilantes and everything else became popular again the minute the War on Terror kicked off.
Yeah.
That's not an accident. It's a response.
Or like for instance, every military person that I'm aware of hates the Hurt Locker.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. But anyways, let's move on, shall we?
Yeah.
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader.
I'm going to sit this one out because I've never seen Star Wars. I'm going to have a cigarette while you two chat.
Lawful new.
I put him as neutral evil.
No, I think he is actually all about the law to a large extent. Some of
not really.
He did, and he moved away. Became about himself to a certain extent, but
yeah.
No, guy's always about his family, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
I know I said I'd be quiet, but the guy is all about his family and his personal interests.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about Anakin or are we talking about Vader?
Well, see, I'm talking about like over the arc of ultimately Vader. Let's say Anakin Skywalker starts out on the chaotic side somewhere.
Definitely chaotic. Probably chaotic.
Yeah.
Probably chaotic.
Now, of course, he falls to the dark side, becomes evil. Essentially a tool of the Emperor. So we could probably say lawful evil at the beginning of New Hope.
Yeah.
Then, he finds out that Luke is his son.
Yeah.
And he starts rebelling a bit. So he starts moving more chaotic. I say at the point where he dies, where he chooses Luke over the Emperor, he ends up at neutral evil.
I'd put an action like that at chaotic good.
I would have put that at chaotic. I think he'd gone full circle back to what he was originally, chaotic good.
But this is the thing. From what little I know about Star Wars, and granted I've not seen it, I've read a bit of meta about it and stuff. To me, that character, regardless of whether you're talking about Anakin or whether you're talking about Darth Vader, his primary motivation is always the protection of his family. Always.
Yeah.
That's his code of conduct.
Yeah.
Therefore, within that, he's chaotic to everyone else because no one knows what he's going to do next to try and protect his family. But within his own code, he's incredibly lawful to a fault to the death.
Which is why in the period where he thought that all his family was dead and all he had left was his, master, Palpatine, is where we see him at his most lawful.
Well, this is what I meant earlier when I talked about how there's a very fine line between lawful good and lawful evil.
Yeah.
When his primary motivation is protecting his family, he's lawful good.
Yeah.
And his primary motivation is doing as he's told because he's found a new morality scale because he no longer has a family, he's evil.
Yeah.
It's that external.
Yeah, well, also there is the fact that in the Star Wars setting, there is an objective good and an objective evil. And
yes,
during the original trilogy, he's essentially in the objective evil, side. Though actually I could argue, I could see the argument where he does go back to chaotic good in his last act of sacrifice, because we do see him as a Force ghost, which from what I can tell, only Jedi can do.
Yeah. No, I think he definitely goes back to being chaotic good.
Yeah.
But and I think he travels out of being lawful evil to perhaps being more chaotic evil on the way through.
Yeah.
Hey, where's my essay comparing Severus Snape and Anakin Skywalker?
That sounds like fun.
Where's my fan fiction of them sat in a bar and mourning their life paths in the afterlife?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the question is, would a comparison between Severus Snape and Anakin Skywalker fit in with Media Musings or the Harry Potter stream?
Both. Both is good. Chaotic. It's chaotic.
I'm not sure what is exactly going to happen with our Harry Potter stream at the moment.
Yeah.
So
thing about it is though, because if I'm taking that comparison, to me, Snape was always very lawful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was to a fault, like well beyond a fault. Like once he picked someone he was following, that was it. Off he went.
Yeah.
And that was half his problem.
Yeah.
She says, I'm not saluting, I'm talking about thinking and going.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what he does. Whereas within that, it doesn't matter what his own personal motivation is.
Yeah.
Because he kind of doesn't prioritize that. Whereas I think a character who prioritized their personal motivations would be more chaotic. Like it sounds Anakin was always his family.
Yeah. See, I kind of see Severus Snape as probably true neutral. Or like either true neutral or neutral, like true neutral, lawful neutral, or neutral good.
I don't think he's much of a benefactor, though, is he? And he does very much feel beholden to Dumbledore, so I couldn't put him as neutral good.
Yeah.
Lawful, maybe lawful neutral. He doesn't seem to care about good or evil, per se.
Yeah.
But I think the thing with Snape is, if he'd been truly chaotic good, or even to a point lawful neutral to a point, I think at the moment Dumbledore said Potter's got to die, Snape would have said, well, fuck you too, buddy.
Yeah.
If his priority really was that all, but it's not. He's more lawful in that.
Yeah.
He's willing to see it to the bitter end, even when his own motivations are no longer the primary factor.
Yeah.
So I think he's probably less chaotic in that sense. I've talked myself out of my own argument now. He's not I'd probably put him at neutral good. If only because he's doing the best he can do in a situation that he just doesn't belong in at all.
Yeah. And so, like, I guess this is like, the one, like, one contribution that Dungeons and Dragons specifically has made to the culture at large is this concept of alignment, of the scale between good and evil and law and chaos, where we can use it as a lens to, explore these concepts through various characters. It's a diagnostic tool.
Yeah, but what we've also done is completely disprove it today, because we've all got totally different thoughts on what it actually means. And when it's not universally understood on the same level, it becomes less than useless.
Yeah, and so, you know what? In fact, I'm probably going to cut the last, 45 minutes, however much. Maybe slap an intro on it and make it my D&D disproves God video. Because that's not clickbait at all. But yeah, like that. But I mean, that was my entire point with my D&D disproves God idea, is the fact if there was an absolute morality that was written on everyone's hearts, as is claimed by the Bible, we would be able to discuss alignment without getting in. We would be able to discuss something as frivolous as the alignment of a fictional character,
Mm.
And all agree. And there would be no space for interpretation.
Yeah.
And again, it's for me, chaotic has always been, it's whether this person prioritizes themselves or their own conscience or the external morality code.
Yeah.
That to me is the line between chaotic and lawful.
Yeah.
But,
the problem with D&D is what we're talking about it from a point of view of the individual's code of conduct and what they perceive as being the laws and everything. But when you're actually playing D&D, there's supposed to be an absolute concept of good and evil.
Yeah.
And that is where it comes out differently.
Well, and which is why the alignment debate has been a thing so much so that, that Wizards officially basically said, okay, we're still having it in there, we're still having alignment on the character sheet as an homage, but it serves no mechanical function whatsoever, except for one specific spell.
Yeah. And I just... The thing about it is... Okay, let me put it this way. Looking at with your own personal understanding of how alignment works, if you were going to war, what alignment would you want the person next to you to have? You were about to step into a war zone, and the person next to you is, your best mate in a war zone. What alignment would you want them to have?
Neutral good, probably. Because if they're lawful, you're not going to bend any of the rules whilst you're in the war, and you kind of want somebody beside you. So, but you also want them to be good from your perspective and not evil. Because
I was gonna say lawful because, but then I realized lawful is how you get those dick sergeants. Yep.
Yeah, lawful good is the ultimate job's worth, I think, can't they?
Yeah. That's how you get the lawful stupid, like the lawful stupid paladin. Where it's like, no.
Oh, that's better than lawful good. From now on, paladins are lawful stupid.
But the whole concept of lawful stupid is a relic of the fact that in earlier editions, paladins had to be lawful good.
Yeah,
and
so
if they weren't lawful good, they lost their paladin powers. So they had
So
they
the
had
300-foot bridge is on fire, but the train must run on time.
Yeah. Well, and
That's
the thing
lawful
is,
good.
because everyone interprets alignment differently, and the DM is essentially the arbiter, because so paladins had to be stricklers to the rules as written in regards to lawful good, or else if they slip in any way, that depending on how the DM is, they essentially became a glorified fighter, without all the cool paladin stuff. So that's where the whole concept of lawful stupid comes from, is because and the trope of like the ball and chain paladin of the party, the killjoy paladin.
Yeah. Yeah, Lord Melchett from Blackadder would have been lawful good.
Yeah.
And he was a freaking idiot.
Yeah. And
see, whereas with me, I think I'd want a chaotic good character next to me. I'd want someone with a code, preferably with a code broadly similar to mine.
Yeah.
But with a code of conduct that they would stick to, but also willing to bend the rules as written.
I'd probably say neutral good.
Neutral goods will still bend the rules if it's
neutral good will still
neutral
bend the
goods
rules,
to me
but
always
won't.
seem a bit wishy-washy.
Yeah, but they won't. Like, I see a chaotic good would bend the rules so far as they bring the wrath of the higher ups on you.
You're in a war zone. Do you really care about the chain of command?
chaotic good would be Hawkeye from MASH.
I don't know. I see I see Hawkeye as more neutral.
No, he's definitely
because he knows where to bend the rules. You know.
The problem is though, I've asked you who you'd want with you in a war zone. You've not said who that person is. You've just given an alignment. The question was flawed from the beginning. Because who do you want? Because for me in a war zone, what I want is someone who I can trust, but only so far. I want someone who's slightly unpredictable because that's what's going to get me out of a tight spot.
Yeah.
That's what I want, and that's why I want chaotic good. I want Elwood Blues up my back. No, I want the dude who's going to come up with some whacked out way of getting out of this.
Yeah.
Who doesn't take no for an answer. And
from that, you'd want Hawkeye, and you're right. It would be chaotic good.
Yeah, you want the guy who looks at a situation and goes, "Hold my beer."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
That's who you want with you in a war zone. Let's be honest.
Or someone who gets the order is like, okay, you got it. You got to go take this position, but you get the intel, or it's like, yeah, that's going to be a slaughterhouse. Fuck the higher ups. We're going to be smart about this.
Yeah. That's what you want. You want someone who's smart, but who's also just crazy enough to get you out of a crazy situation.
Or someone who will do their job and do it competently, but will not do so, but who's smart about it and who is also wants to see, their squad mates come out of this alive.
I mean, ideally, you want somebody who's also going to be smart enough to, you're talking about the type of character that could protect you, or the type of person if they needed to. You want Doctor Who on your side, and Doctor Who is definitely chaotic good.
Oh yeah.
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 You want the dude who looks at the situation and says, "No, I will not allow this," but also the person who looks at the situation and goes, let's think this through before we make a move, just to be on the safe side.
Up the rules, because we're going to get the right outcome out of this regardless of the rules.
Yeah.
Also,
chaotic good, I think the end does justify the means, but only to a certain line.
Yeah. And let's end this by making everyone mad at each other. And do a quick little speed round.
Okay,
so alignment for Hissy.
Definitely chaotic good.
Chaotic neutral.
Okay, I'll take those. I'll take those as a compliment, even.
Yeah. Okay, Jen.
Yeah, I think I'd go either chaotic neutral or chaotic good. You're definitely, you're somewhere between you're the activist archetype, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're somewhere between the rebel and the benefactor.
Yeah, I'd say you're probably riding the line between chaotic good and chaotic neutral.
Yeah, that's put myself as well.
Or maybe that, like, the intersection on the corner between neutral good, true neutral, chaotic good, that little intersection.
The Venn diagram of these three things has Jen in the middle.
Yeah.
Whilst maintaining enough chaos to get where I want to go.
Yeah. Okay, bring it.
I mean, I've lived with you, so you're definitely not lawful neutral.
Yeah.
You're not tidy enough for that.
I'd go chaotic neutral.
I'd probably go neutral good.
Or neutral good, yeah. One of those two. around that area.
Because you do your best, but
Yeah.
you do sort of, there are lines.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel personally I'd put myself on the what?
Can I? On the back of that, though, I have seen you playing video games, and I do know your sense of humor, and there is some chaos in there.
Yeah.
Between that neutral good and that chaotic good, it's there somewhere. It's border.
Yeah, personally, I'd put myself on the line between lawful and neutral good.
I don't think you're as lawful as you think you are.
No.
I know how comfortable I get when how uncomfortable I get when I have to bend rules.
But you're also a bit of a rebel.
Yeah, and I think the thing about rules is it's your rules.
Yeah.
Scammer just said, no, Jen's just chaotic.
Yeah. Well, no, I will say you probably don't go so far as to be chaotic stupid.
No.
Chaotic stupid, yeah. Oh no, I've definitely managed chaotic stupid a couple of times.
Oh, you've gone full. I'm just gonna torture the shopkeeper for kicks and then rob him blind.
I haven't done that.
I think with you though, Rig, you are you're that neutral good character. You mean well. You try and do well. But the thing is, you are willing when you have to break the rules.
Yeah,
but not your own rules.
Sorry. Yeah. Chaotic.
Recently, politically, anyone, and I don't care what anyone says, right? If you donated to a bailout fund, if you were behind BLM, if you were saying, I am Antifa, you are not lawful. You are not an unlawful alignment.
Yeah.
No.
Because you've looked at the rules and gone, the rules are stupid, screw that.
Yep. That's
what you've done. And that immediately makes you neutral, if not chaotic. That's,
fair point.
So, everyone's got their own lines, but the thing is, where is your line? Because everyone's got a point at which they would probably throw their hands in the air and go, you know what, let's rain down anarchy on this, let's just destroy this. Everyone's got that line.
Yeah.
It's how far away that line is from your day-to-day behaviour. I think that probably put figures where you are on the lawful to chaotic, and how far across that line you're willing to go before you do just say, I'm done, before that kicks in.
And you know what? Since Scummer has been consistently in the chat and been quoted so much that he might as well have been a guest, I say he's neutral good.
I reckon Jeff's neutral.
I would have put him more at chaotic neutral. He's got free spirit thing going on.
Yeah,
he's definitely,
tending towards true neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a chaotic edge.
Yeah. I think he does have his own morality, though. That's why I'm saying sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a. I like Jeff because he's one of those blokes you meet him and this dude's got his own code.
So, final thoughts on the entire topic of tabletop RPGs as medium.
Definitely.
You can't give any accurate or precise reading of tabletop RPG as media in any generalized terms, because the nature of the media is such that it will be altered radically by those partaking of it.
And
it does who's running it, doesn't it? So
it really does depend on who's running it and who's playing.
Yeah. It is media with a huge caveat.
Yeah.
It is media, absolutely. It is media. We absorb it as media. We take it in as media. It has its basis in media and in narrative and in fantasy. However, you cannot judge it on a generalized scale because there's so much there that it will be received differently by every different player in every different game.
Yeah.
How I receive D&D in game A, where I'm playing the lawful good Dragonborn Paladin with an intelligence of 8, is not how I receive it in a game where I'm playing the, chaotic good human with an intelligence of 19.
Yeah.
It's two different games, and I will receive them and respond to the media in different ways in those situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of how unique tabletop RPGs are as a medium, this is my closing thought. It allows a very unique exploration of themes, because instead of dictating how the author interprets these themes to the audience, it allows the audience to explore those themes themselves.
Yeah.
So let's go around with shilling.
Cool. Jeff and I are still going through the Asterix books every week. Next week, we've got Asterix at the Olympic Games on my channel, so that's going to be fun. Tonight at 7 o'clock UK time, so in just under 2 hours, Classics Twitter, under the hashtag Classics Twitter movie, is watching the 2004 version of Troy. Get it up on Netflix and join in. It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of ranting and raving, I think. It's going to be amusing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be involved in that on Twitter as @DangerHissy. If you're interested in media and classics, check out Tony Keen46 on Twitter because he's running a course. Definitely recommend him. I've fangirled about him enough. D&D, we actually play D&D every Saturday.
Yep.
Riggy's the DM for that, so I'm going to leave him to shill that more, but that's pretty much everything I'm up to at the moment.
Yeah. And Jen?
Yeah, I had a really busy week last week putting out content and having a lot of fun with it and shocking people. It was good fun. A little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. They knew it was coming. Bad choice of words.
Or good choice of words.
I'm hoping I'll get on at least a couple more videos and hopefully a stream this week. I'm in a hurry about whether to do the last video on J.K. Rowling because what happened? What did my computer do then? Okay, I have no idea. My mouse is being stupid. All right.
Gotta love tech issues this weekend.
It's joyous, isn't it? I have no idea that went. I'll figure it out. You guys can still see and hear me, so it's cool. I lost track of what I was talking about then. I'm gonna have to figure out USB ports as well. So I'll hopefully have I'm thinking I'll probably do another Raising Voices with a guest. There's I've got a couple of topics that I want to do that are going to be just standalone videos, and Jeff and I have been talking about doing a live debunk video stream at some point. Maybe we'll try and organize that for this week as well. Aside from that, I'm not exactly sure what I'm up to this week. But
Okay. And I'll go. So Saturday, I run secular D&D on this channel. We have Danger Hissy playing the Dragonborn Ranger, who is probably either neutral or lawful good.
Probably more neutral. He does have his lines, but he's
in comparison with 42nd, the Warforged monk, who is played by Santi the Sane, he is definitely lawful.
Yes, but in comparison to Santi the Sane's character, there's no other character on the planet in the history of media who is chaotic.
Yeah. Yeah, 42nd is a rather interestingly chaotic Warforged monk who, like half the fun is seeing what 42nd will be up to.
42nd gives me anxiety. I don't know what he's going to do next.
Yeah.
And not in a good way. Like, he's too unpredictable.
How do truly chaotic characters, which are purely chaotic, ever end up in parties?
I
mean, in real life, a character like that would be a loner.
Yeah, Geo Sam plays a dragonborn barbarian, and the other special guest, Julie LaVoice of Wine and Reason, plays a gnome rogue arcane trickster, and they are currently exploring a continent where everything is reptilian.
Except them.
Well, except for 42nd and Ale Slosh, the gnome. Yeah.
Ale Slosh is fun, though.
Yeah, Ale Slush is very fun.
Yeah.
So, next session they're going to be continuing along the caravan route and possibly moving to the edge of the desert. And we'll see what fate has in store for them. Next week on Media Musings, I'm either doing Les Miserables or I'm talking about the Dresden Files, because on July 14th, July 14th is Bastille Day. So, yes, it's the wrong revolution, but it still fits because it's still French. And two, July 14th is also the release date for Peace Talks, which is the latest Dresden Files novel. So, I'm having Dresden Files and Les Mis bracket the 14th. Whichever comes first depends on when Hissy is available, because Hissy wants to talk Les Mis with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will and sometime soon, I'm just going to go ahead and say, sometime soon, keep an eye out for an edited down version of this where we, essentially have the alignment talk released as a separate video with an intro and such. Because that's basically what I wanted to cover for my edited video, so might as well clip it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And finally, I'm going to also go ahead and shill out Tony Keene's course as well, because, as you know, he if he's not actually a doctor, he's definitely closer to being a doctor than yours truly, Contovine.
I think he does have a PhD. Hang on. Is he? I'm sure he does. Let me get his academic profile up.
And attending his courses is definitely 1,000,000% safer than coming to Dinosaur Adventureland.
And going swimming.
Yes, definitely.
Or rather, experiencing the new interactive exhibit where we show you the consequences of global sin.
Yeah, I don't think he's a PhD. It's not listed on his academic profile. But
Okay.
he's still an awesome academic. Follow him. Listen to him.
And like I said, he's still probably much closer to being an actual doctor than Dr. Kent Hovind.
Yeah, although I wouldn't ask Tony for medical advice. I don't think he's that kind of doctor.
Well, what we're saying is Dr. Hovind.
PhD, yeah.
Yeah, if I remember right, he got his PhD from a diploma mill in a trailer park.
Oh. Ouch.
Yeah. But anyways, let's go ahead and wrap this up with some taglines.
Cool. Take care, be good, and as always, if you can't be good, be careful.
And remember, indoctrination is a hell of a selfie stick.